The cry in the streets. The alien marketplace was always loud, filled with voices, trades, and the sound of machines moving heavy goods. But on this day, one sound cut through everything else. It was the voice of a child. A small alien boy stood in the middle of the street, his hands shaking, his voice breaking as he cried, "My mother won't wake up. Please, someone help." The boy's eyes were red, his face wet with tears, but no one stopped. Aliens of different shapes and colors walked past him. Some looked for a second, then turned their heads away. Others whispered, "Not our problem," and moved faster. The boy pulled at their clothes, but they shook him off. His mother lay on the ground near a cold stone wall. She was pale, her chest moving only slightly. She looked lifeless to anyone who bothered to glance. The boy bent down again, shaking her shoulders. "Mother, please wake up. Don't leave me alone." His voice echoed in the busy street, but still, no one cared. The child's cries grew weaker. His voice cracked, his small hands trembling as he tried to cover his mother with an old cloth. The crowd only grew larger, yet the boy's world grew smaller. Only his mother's face mattered. Then, one figure stopped. A human. He was taller than most in the market, his worn coat dusty from long travel. His eyes narrowed as he heard the boy's cry. While others moved away, he walked closer. He pushed through the aliens, ignoring their stares. The boy looked up, desperate, his small voice shaking. "Please, sir. My mother. She won't wake up." His alien words were broken, but the meaning was clear. The human knelt down. His shadow fell over the mother's still body. He placed a hand near her mouth, then her neck. There. Faint breath. Faint pulse. She was alive, but fading. He looked at the boy. "She's not gone yet." The crowd murmured, disapproving. "Don't touch them. They're not worth saving. You'll bring trouble." Their voices were sharp, filled with coldness. Some even laughed at the human. But the boy held the man's arm tightly, refusing to let go. His eyes begged without words. The human sighed. His heart was heavy, but his choice was clear. He carefully lifted the alien woman into his arms. She was light, too light, as if she hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Her head rested against his shoulder, her breathing shallow. Gasps rippled through the marketplace. "The human is carrying her. Why waste your strength? You'll regret this." The human ignored them. His steps were steady as he walked through the crowd. The boy hurried beside him, almost stumbling, but never leaving his side. Together they moved away from the place where no one cared. The noise of the marketplace faded behind them, but the boy's sobs still filled the air. The human looked down at the child, then at the weak woman in his arms. He didn't know their story. He didn't know their names, but he knew one thing. If he walked away like everyone else, this woman would die, and the boy would be left alone in the streets. And so, while the world turned cold, one human chose to act. But he also knew one truth. Helping them would not be easy. In this city, kindness was dangerous. The cold mother. The human carried the alien woman through narrow streets, her body limp in his arms. She was cold to the touch, her skin pale and almost lifeless. Each shallow breath from her chest was like a small battle for survival. The boy ran beside him, clutching the edge of the man's coat, afraid that if he let go, everything would vanish. The human looked down at the child. "Stay close," he said softly. The boy nodded quickly, his big eyes filled with fear. He did not ask who this man was. He did not ask why he was helping. Right now, all that mattered was his mother. The human pushed open the doors of a medical hall. Inside, alien healers moved between glowing machines, treating patients who could pay. The smell of chemicals filled the air. The human stepped forward, lowering the woman carefully onto a nearby bench. "She needs help," he said firmly. One of the alien doctors glanced at her, then looked away with disinterest. "She is not one of us," he muttered. Another shook his head. "No credits, no treatment. Take her out." The boy cried, falling to his knees. "Please, she's my mother. Please save her." His voice echoed in the hall, but no one moved. The alien healers passed by as if he was invisible. The human's jaw tightened. He stepped closer to the counter. "You mean to let her die here? In front of you?" A tall alien clerk hissed. "She is weak blood, not worth medicine. If you care, then fix her yourself." The boy clung to his mother's hand, shaking it. "Wake up, mother. Please." His small voice broke the human's heart. The human turned his gaze on the clerk, his eyes burning. "You call yourselves healers," he said coldly, "yet you choose who deserves to live. That is no healer at all." The clerk sneered. "Leave, human, or guards will throw you out." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the room. The human looked at the pale woman on the bench. Her breaths were weaker now, her lips almost blue. If he wasted more time, she would slip away. Without another word, he bent down, scooped her back into his arms, and turned to the boy. "Come." The boy's eyes widened. "But where will we go?" "Somewhere they cannot refuse us," the human answered, though deep inside he knew he had no plan. He only knew he could not abandon them. As they stepped out of the medical hall, cold night air wrapped around them. The streets were darker now, the market closing, shadows stretching long against the walls. The boy hurried beside him, clutching his mother's hand as she dangled weakly from the man's arms. Is she dying?" the boy whispered. The human looked straight ahead. He did not lie. "Yes, unless we fight for her." The child's lips trembled. He nodded, holding back tears, but his small hands clenched with new strength. The human carried them into the edge of the city, to the small rented room where he stayed. It was not much, just a bed, a table, and a few old supplies from his journeys. He laid the alien woman carefully on the bed. Her chest rose and fell, barely moving. The boy sat beside her, stroking her hand. "Mother, don't leave me." The human opened his travel bag, pulling out an old Earth med kit. It was outdated, scratched from years of use, but it was all he had. He took a deep breath. "I don't know your biology," he murmured, more to himself than to the boy, "but I will try." The boy looked at him with trembling hope. In his eyes, this human was not just a stranger anymore. He was the only light left in a city that had turned dark. And so, in that small room, a battle began. Not against soldiers or monsters, but against death itself. The refusal of the city. The night was long. Inside the small rented room, the human worked with trembling hands. He pressed patches, tried injections, even used old oxygen tubes from his kit, but nothing seemed enough. The alien woman's breath was shallow, her pulse faint. Every few minutes, the boy would whisper, "Mother, stay with me," his little voice breaking in fear. By morning, her condition grew worse. Her skin had turned cold, almost gray. The human realized he could not save her alone. She needed medicine, real alien medicine. He stood up quickly, pulling on his coat. "Stay with her," he told the boy. "I will find what she needs." The child's eyes widened with both hope and fear. "You'll come back?" The human placed a hand on his shoulder. "I promise." With that, he left the room and stepped back into the waking city. The marketplace was busy again, filled with noise, the smell of food, and merchants shouting about their goods. But he did not stop for food or drink. He moved straight toward the medical district, his boots heavy on the stone road. He entered the same medical hall as before, this time carrying his old Earth credits in a small pouch. He dropped it on the counter. The coins clattered, drawing every eye. "Take it," he said. "Just give me the medicine she needs." The clerk from before looked down at the pouch, then smirked. Human credits. Worthless here. The man's jaw tightened. He pulled out another bag, alien currency he had earned through trade. "Then take this." He pushed it forward. The clerk leaned closer, his voice cold. "Even if you gave me gold, I would not waste medicine on her kind. She is weak. She is nothing." The words hit like knives. The human's hand curled into a fist, slamming against the counter. "She is a life," he roared, "and I will not watch her die because of your hate." The sound echoed through the hall. Other healers turned to watch. Some laughed. Some whispered, "The human has lost his mind." Guards in dark armor entered, their weapons ready. One stepped forward. "There is no treatment for trash. Leave now, or you will be thrown into the street." The human's chest rose and fell with anger. For a moment, he imagined drawing his blade, fighting them all. But he looked around. Too many, and it would end in death, not rescue. He turned and stormed out, the laughter of the clerks chasing him like poison. His steps carried him into the lower market where traders sold herbs, stolen goods, and items hidden from the authorities. He approached an old alien woman at a small stall. "Do you know where I can find medicine? Not for humans, but for your kind." The woman eyed him carefully. "What do you need it for?" "A mother is dying," he said simply. Her eyes narrowed. "No one will sell to you. Not for her race, not for free." The human pulled out every coin he had, laying it on her table. His voice was hard, unshaken. "Then I will buy it, whatever the price." The old trader looked at the pile of coins, then at his face. For a long moment she was silent. Finally she slid a small vial across the table. "This is what you seek. It will not cure, but it may keep her alive long enough for strength to return." The human grabbed it, bowing his head once. "Thank you." But as he turned to leave, shadows moved behind him. Guards had followed, watching. One shouted, "Stop him! He dares to steal medicine for the unworthy!" The crowd froze. Merchants pulled back. Soldiers advanced. The human clenched the vial in his fist, heart racing. He knew if they caught him, the woman and child would lose their only chance. And so, without hesitation, he ran. The hidden room. The human ran through the narrow alleys of the city, boots striking against stone. Behind him, armored guards shouted, their weapons clattering as they chased. In his hand, he gripped the small glass vial tightly, afraid it might slip or shatter. That tiny bottle was the only hope for the dying alien mother. He turned sharply, ducking into an old passageway between two broken walls. The smell of rust and dust filled the air. For a moment, silence. He pressed his back against the wall, listening. The guards rushed past, their voices fading as they searched in the wrong direction. The human let out a slow breath of relief. His hand trembled, but he did not stop. He returned quickly to his small rented room at the edge of the city. When he opened the door, the boy jumped up at once, his eyes wide with fear. "You came back!" the child cried, running forward. His small hands clutched at the man's coat. Did you find something?" The human nodded and knelt down. He held out the vial. The boy's eyes filled with tears. "Will it save her?" The man looked at the pale woman lying on the bed. Her breathing was shallow, her lips cracked, her chest barely rising. "I don't know," he admitted softly, "but it may give her a chance." He moved quickly, setting the vial on the table and opening his old med kit. Inside were bandages, syringes, and tools meant for humans, not aliens. Still, he tried to adapt them. He carefully broke the seal on the vial, pouring its glowing liquid into a thin tube. The boy hovered near the bed, holding his mother's hand. His voice trembled. "Please, sir, don't let her go." The human glanced at him. His eyes were steady. "I will not give up, not while she breathes." He inserted the needle carefully, pushing the strange medicine into her veins. For a moment, nothing happened. The woman lay still, her face like stone. The boy began to sob again, shaking her arm. "Mother, please wake up." Then a faint sound escaped her lips. A weak gasp. Her chest rose higher than before. The boy's eyes widened. She breathed." The human leaned close, checking her pulse. It was still weak, but stronger than before. He nodded slowly. "It's working, but she needs rest. Many hours." The boy hugged his mother's arm tightly, refusing to let go. Tears streamed down his face, but this time they were mixed with hope. The human sat back, exhaustion washing over him. His body ached from running, his mind heavy with worry. But when he looked at the boy, he found strength again. "You must keep her warm," he said. He pulled off his coat and laid it gently over the woman's thin body. The boy nodded quickly, doing everything he was told. Outside, the sound of boots echoed faintly in the distance. Guards still searched the streets. The human frowned, knowing danger had not ended. He locked the door and pulled the curtain across the small window. The room fell into shadows. "We cannot let anyone know she is here," he warned softly. "If the guards find us, they will take her away, and they will not let her live." The boy's small hands clenched. "I will not tell. I will protect her." The human placed a hand on the child's shoulder. "You are brave, but tonight we must hide. This room is our only safe place." The boy nodded again, his eyes still wet but shining with new determination. As the night deepened, the human sat beside the bed, watching over the mother and son. His mind was full of questions. Why did this city hate them so much? Why were they treated as less than nothing? But one answer was clear. No matter what the city refused, he had chosen to fight for life. And in this hidden room, the battle was only beginning. The boy's story. The hidden room was quiet except for the sound of weak breathing. The alien woman lay still under the human's coat, her chest rising and falling slowly. The boy sat beside her, holding her hand tightly, afraid that if he let go, she would slip away forever. The human sat on the other side of the bed, his tired eyes fixed on the woman. He had been awake the whole night, guarding them, waiting to see if the medicine would hold. His muscles ached, his head heavy, but he refused to rest. At last, the silence broke. The boy whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Sir, why did you help us? No one else would." The human leaned back against the wall, thinking for a moment. "Because life is life. It should not matter what blood or skin someone has. Your mother breathes, so she deserves to live." The boy's eyes filled with tears again. He lowered his head. "They don't think so. No one thinks so." His small voice cracked, and slowly, words began to spill out. He told the human how his mother once worked in the deep mines outside the city. Every day she carried heavy loads of stone while poisonous dust filled her lungs. She was strong, but food was scarce, and the overseers gave them nothing but scraps. When she grew weaker, they sent her away, saying she was useless. The boy's small fists clenched as he spoke. We begged in the streets, but everyone pushed us away. They called us less blood. They said we did not belong. He sniffled, wiping his face on his sleeve. Mother tried to smile for me. She said we would survive, but yesterday she collapsed. She would not wake up, and still no one cared. His voice broke into sobs. The human placed a steady hand on his shoulder. You are not alone now, he said quietly. I am here. She is not gone yet. We will fight. The boy looked up, his tear-streaked face trembling. But why? Why would you risk yourself? Gua, birds are hunting you. Everyone hates us. If they find out, they'll punish you too. The human's gaze hardened, his voice deep with conviction. Because if I walk away, I become like them. I will not be like them. For the first time, the boy's lips curved into the smallest, weakest smile. It was not happiness, but it was a seed of hope. He whispered, You are different from them. You are human. The man said nothing more, but his chest felt heavy. The child's words carried weight he did not expect. Outside, faint sounds of marching boots echoed in the distance. Guards still searched the city, but inside the small room something stronger was born. Trust. The boy wiped his eyes, then sat straighter. When she wakes, he whispered firmly, I will never let her go hungry again. I will never let her work until she falls. I will protect her. The human nodded slowly. And I will protect you both. Until she wakes, I promise you this room is safe. The child clung tighter to his mother's hand. His tears had dried, replaced by determination. The fire in his young eyes was new, but it was real. That night, as the woman slept between life and death, the boy shared every memory. Stories of his mother's laughter when she was strong, the songs she once sang in the mines to keep him calm, the way she would shield him with her own body when overseers grew cruel. His words painted a picture of love surviving in darkness. The human listened silently, his heart stirred by the tale. He realized this was not just about saving a weak alien woman. This was about saving a bond too pure to be broken. And as the boy's story ended, the human looked at the mother's still face and whispered to himself, She must live. For him, the price of medicine. The next morning was colder. A thin gray light slipped through the cracks of the window, falling across the bed where the alien woman lay. Her breaths were still shallow, but steadier than before. The boy had fallen asleep beside her, his small hand gripping hers tightly, even in dreams. The human stood at the table, staring at the empty vial. The liquid that had saved her once was gone. He knew it was not enough. Without more medicine, she would slip back into the shadows of death. He clenched his jaw. I need more, he whispered to himself. But the city will not give it freely. He slipped on his coat again, checking the small pouch of coins he had left. It was not much. Most of his earnings had already been spent. Still, he tied the pouch to his belt and turned toward the boy. The child woke with a start. Where are you going? He asked, fear in his voice. The human knelt beside him. I must find more medicine. Watch over her until I return. The boy grabbed his sleeve, his eyes wet. What if the guards catch you? What if they take you away? The man placed a firm hand on the boy's shoulder. I will return, for both of you. The child nodded slowly, though worry still clouded his face. The humans stepped into the streets once more. The marketplace was alive with noise, merchants shouting prices, buyers arguing, guards watching from every corner. He moved carefully, keeping his head low, but inside he was determined. At the apothecary stalls, he offered his pouch of coins. I need the same vial as yesterday. She will not last without it. The merchant glanced at the coins and scoffed. Not enough. Prices have risen, and for her kind? He spat on the ground. Double the price. The human's fists tightened. That is robbery. The merchant sneered. Then let her die. My shelves are not for the weak. The human pushed the pouch forward. Take it all. Every coin, just give me the medicine. The merchant smirked, slowly dragging the pouch toward himself. Very well, but remember, human, when you help them, you paint a target on your own back. He dropped a single vial onto the counter. The man grabbed it quickly, his heart pounding. Relief came for only a second, until a heavy hand landed on his shoulder. He turned to see two guards standing close, their armor black, their eyes cold. What do you carry, human? One demanded. The human hid the vial in his palm. Supplies for travel, nothing more. The guard narrowed his eyes. You think we don't know? Word spreads fast. You hide a sick alien woman. You break city law. The man stood tall, though inside his blood raced. What I do is no crime. The guard's lips twisted. Saving the unworthy is worse than crime. It is insult. The second guard reached for the pouch of coins now in the merchant's hands. See? He pays for their medicine. The merchant stepped back quickly, pretending innocence. He forced me, he lied. The human knew if they searched him, they would find the vial. Then everything would be lost. Without thinking, he shoved the guard back, breaking into a sprint through the crowd. Voices erupted. Stop him! The human runs! The man darted between stalls, leaping over baskets of fruit, pushing past startled shoppers. Behind him, boots thundered as the guards gave chase. He clutched the vial against his chest, every step heavy with danger. He did not care about his own life now. The only thought that drove him forward was the image of the boy's eyes, begging him to return, and the mother who waited between life and death. Tonight, he would pay the price. Whether with coins, blood, or freedom, he did not know yet. But the medicine must reach her. The night of struggle. The human slammed the door shut behind him, his chest heaving from the run. Sweat rolled down his face, and in his hand he still gripped the small vial tightly. Outside, the sound of distant boots echoed in the streets, but for now, the guards had lost him. The boy jumped up at once, eyes wide with fear. You came back, did they hurt you? The man shook his head, forcing a small breath. No, but they will keep searching. He held up the vial. I got it. This may keep her alive. The boy's face lit up with hope as he looked toward his mother. She still lay motionless on the bed, her skin pale, her breath faint. The human moved quickly, preparing the medicine. His hands trembled slightly. He knew there would not be a second chance. He filled the syringe and pressed it carefully into her arm. The boy held his mother's hand tight, whispering over and over, Please, mother, please wake up. At first, nothing happened. The human wiped the sweat from his brow, his heart sinking. Then suddenly, her chest rose sharply, her body trembled, her lips parted with a soft gasp. The boy's eyes widened. She's breathing stronger. But it was not enough. Her pulse spiked wildly, then slowed again, as if her body was fighting inside itself. The human leaned close, adjusting her position, pressing his ear to her chest. The beat was uneven, struggling. Hours passed like this, her body shifting between weak breaths and sudden sharp gasps. The boy cried silently, refusing to sleep, while the human worked tirelessly. He cooled her with damp cloths, tried to steady her pulse with old human techniques, and whispered words of comfort, though he did not know if she could hear. Then, in the dead of night, her body suddenly went still. Her chest stopped moving, her lips turned gray. The boy screamed, No, mother, don't leave me! He shook her desperately, tears falling onto her face. The human's heart froze, but he acted at once. He pressed his hands to her chest, pushing hard, rhythm after rhythm. Breathe, he shouted. You will not die here. He forced air into her lungs again and again. Sweat dripped from his forehead, his arms aching, but he did not stop. The boy clutched her hand, crying so hard his small body shook. Please, sir, save her. Please don't let her go. Minutes felt like hours. Then, at last, a sound, weak but real. A cough. The woman's chest lifted, air rushing back into her lungs. Her body jerked, then slowly settled into shallow breathing again. The boy cried out with relief, hugging her tightly. She's alive! She's alive! The human fell back against the wall, exhausted, his hands shaking. His chest ached from the struggle, but his eyes stayed on her face. She is fighting, he whispered, but the night is not over. They sat together in the dim light, the boy never letting go of his mother's hand. The human stayed awake, watching every breath, ready to act again if she slipped away. Outside, the city slept under its cold stars. Guards still searched for the human who dared to break their laws. But inside this small hidden room, a greater battle raged. One life fighting against death, one child refusing to lose the only family he had, and one human carrying the weight of them both. When dawn's light finally touched the window, the woman was still alive, weaker than ever, but alive. And for the boy, that was enough to keep hope burning. The awakening. The first rays of dawn crept into the room, painting the walls with pale gold. The air was still heavy, filled with the memory of the long night of struggle. The boy had fallen asleep with his head resting on his mother's arm, his small fingers still wrapped around her hand, as if he feared letting go. The human sat near the table, his body slouched in exhaustion. He had not closed his eyes once. Every sound of the woman's shallow breaths kept him awake, ready to fight again if her life slipped away. His eyes burned, but his spirit did not rest. Then, something changed. A weak sound, almost like a sigh, escaped the woman's lips. The boy stirred, blinking awake, confused at first. Then he sat up quickly, staring at her face. "Mother?" he whispered. Her eyelids trembled, slowly lifting. For the first time in days, her eyes opened. They were dull with weakness but alive. She looked around, confused, before her gaze fell on her son. "Mother!" the boy cried, his voice breaking with joy. He threw himself into her arms, hugging her tightly. Tears streamed down his face, but this time they were tears of happiness. "You came back. You didn't leave me." The woman's lips trembled. Her voice was barely a whisper. "My son, I thought I would not see you again." The boy held her tighter. "A man saved you, Mother. He stayed with us all night. He did not give up." Slowly her gaze shifted. She saw the human sitting across the room, watching silently. His face was tired, his clothes still damp with sweat, but his eyes were steady. She tried to speak, but no words came. Only a question lingered in her eyes. Why? The human stood and stepped closer. He knelt beside her bed. "You were close to death," he said softly, "but you are alive now. Rest, gain strength." Her lips moved slowly, and finally faint words escaped. "Why? Did you help us?" "No one else would, not even our own." The man's jaw tightened. He looked at her, then at the boy clinging to her. "Because life is not a choice for others to decide. You breathe. That is reason enough." Tears gathered in her eyes, sliding down her cheeks. She lifted her weak hand and touched her son's face. Then, with effort, she turned her hand toward the human. It was a small, trembling gesture, but filled with meaning. Gratitude. The boy looked at the human with shining eyes. "She lives because of you." His voice carried a hope that had been missing for so long. The human gave a faint nod. "She lives because she is strong. She refused to let go." But even as relief filled the room, a shadow lingered. Outside, distant shouts of guards still echoed in the morning streets. The city had not forgotten. If they discovered that the human had hidden and saved her, punishment would fall swiftly. The woman seemed to sense the danger. Her eyes, still weak, moved toward the door. Her voice shook. "They will come for us." The man's gaze hardened. "Let them come," he said firmly. "As long as I breathe, they will not take you." For the boy, those words became a shield stronger than any wall. He pressed his face against his mother, whispering, "We are safe now. He will protect us." And in that quiet, fragile morning, the impossible had happened. Against a city's hatred, against death itself, a mother had opened her eyes again. But the true storm was still waiting. The threat of the powerful. The joy of the awakening did not last long. By midday, the noise of the city grew louder outside their small window. Heavy boots marched along the stone streets, and angry voices rose in the distance. The human leaned closer to the curtain, pulling it back just enough to see. Dozens of guards patrolled in groups, their armor dark and polished. They carried long rifles that glowed with energy. People in the market whispered nervously, pointing toward the direction of the human's rented room. Rumor had spread faster than fire. A human had saved an unworthy alien woman. The boy noticed the human's tense face. "They're looking for us, aren't they?" he whispered, fear clear in his small voice. The man nodded. "Yes, they do not forgive kindness." The boy's mother, still weak but awake, tried to sit up. She placed a trembling hand on her son's shoulder. "You must not be caught. If they find you, they will take you away from me. Worse, they will kill him." She looked toward the human, her eyes filled with both fear and gratitude. The man stood straight, his hand resting on the hilt of the knife at his belt. "I knew this would happen," he said quietly, "but I do not regret it." Outside, a voice shouted, louder than the others. It carried authority. "Search every room. Bring me the human who dares break our law." The boy flinched and pressed closer to his mother. She pulled him near, holding him tightly despite her weakness. The human quickly closed the curtain again, his mind racing. He could fight, but against so many guards, he would not survive. Yet surrender meant certain death for the woman and child. A heavy knock rattled the door. "Open up," a guard bellowed. "By order of the city, you are to be searched." The boy's mother's face paled with terror. The boy whimpered, clutching her arm. The human motioned for silence, raising a finger. To his lips, he moved quickly, grabbing the table and pushing it against the door. The knock grew louder, angrier. "Open this door or we break it down." The human leaned close to the boy. "There is a small crawl space under the bed. Hide there with your mother. Do not make a sound." The boy's eyes widened. "But what about you?" The man gave a faint, grim smile. "I will hold them. Buy time. That may be enough." The woman shook her head weakly. No, you saved us already. You must not die for us. The human's eyes hardened. If I let them take you, then all of this means nothing. Reluctantly, the boy helped his mother onto the floor. With effort, they slid beneath the bed, hidden in shadows. The human pulled the blanket down, covering the opening. Then he turned toward the door, pulling the knife free from its sheath. The pounding on the door stopped. Silence filled the air for a moment, heavy and thick. Then came the crack of energy as the door lock exploded and the wood splintered open. Guards stormed inside, weapons raised. Their leader stepped forward, his tall frame covered in black armor with a red insignia. His cold eyes scanned the room. So, the human defies our law. The man stood firm, the knife in his hand gleaming. Your law is not justice, he said evenly. The leader's lips twisted into a cruel smile. Then you will learn what happens to those who challenge power. The guards surrounded him, weapons aimed. The human's grip tightened, his heart steady. He knew he was outnumbered, but his resolve did not break. For in that moment, he was not standing for himself. He was standing for the boy and his mother, hidden just feet away, their lives hanging by a thread. The city's power had arrived at his door, and the true fight was about to begin. Humanity's answer. The room was filled with the sound of heavy boots and the hum of charged weapons. The human stood in the center, knife in hand, facing a half-circle of armored guards. The leader, taller than the rest, smirked with cruel satisfaction. You will be punished for saving filth, the leader said coldly. This city does not waste breath on the weak. The human's grip tightened around the knife. His voice was steady, but filled with fire. Then your city is weaker than the dying woman you refuse to help. The guards growled, stepping closer. Behind the bed, hidden in shadows, the boy held his mother's hand tightly, his heart pounding. His mother pressed a trembling finger to his lips, urging silence, though her own eyes brimmed with tears. The leader raised his weapon. Take him alive. Make an example of him. But before the order could be carried out, a voice rang from outside the broken door. Stop! Everyone turned. An old merchant woman stood at the threshold, the same one who had given the human the vial of medicine. Her eyes were sharp, her voice strong. He saved a life you all threw away. And you call that crime? Whispers spread in the street behind her. Dozens of onlookers had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Some were silent, but others murmured in agreement. He did what was right. Why should kindness be punished? The leader sneered. Silence, this is no concern of yours. But another voice rose from the crowd, then another. Soon, a wave of voices filled the street, louder than the guards' threats. Let him go. He saved her when you would not. The human stood taller, sensing the shift. For the first time, the guards hesitated. Their weapons did not lower, but their eyes flickered with doubt. The leader's face twisted with anger. You fools think one man's defiance changes law? This city has survived by strength alone. Compass. Ion is weakness. The human stepped forward, his knife steady, his voice calm but powerful. No, compassion is what makes strength. You call yourself powerful, yet you fear kindness so much you hunt it down. That is not strength, that is fear. The words cut deeper than any blade. The murmurs outside grew into shouts of agreement. Some aliens stepped forward, blocking the doorway, refusing to let more guards pass. The leader's eyes blazed with fury, but he saw the tide turning. The crowd was no longer afraid, and once a city begins to question its rulers, fear no longer controls them. He hissed at the human. You will regret this. Then, with a sharp motion, he signaled his men. Reluctantly, the guards lowered their weapons and backed out of the room. The leader glared one last time before retreating into the street, swallowed by the growing cries of the people. Silence returned inside the room. The human lowered his knife slowly, his chest rising and falling with relief. From under the bed, the boy crawled out, throwing his arms around the man. Tears streamed down his face, but this time, they were tears of joy. You did it! You saved her! And you saved us! The human knelt, placing a hand on the child's shoulder. No, he said softly. Your voices saved you. The truth saved you. All I did was refuse to walk away. The boy's mother, weak but awake, lifted her head. Her eyes met the human's, filled with gratitude and awe. With a trembling voice, she whispered, You changed everything. Not just for us, but for them too. The human glanced toward the window, where the sound of the crowd still echoed in the streets. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps one act of kindness had planted a seed that would grow, even in the hardest soil. He looked back at the boy and his mother, and for the first time since arriving in this cruel city, he allowed himself a small smile. In a place where compassion was called weakness, one human had given it a new name. Hope.